Oh, Stephen, I played the instrumental version again.
I was like, are we supposed to sing over this?
Yeah. All right, you know the words? But actually, they didn't really even win the game at all.
Oh, I came in too early.
Survivor know-it-alls. Stephen and Rob without a doubt got the game all figured out. They know it all. Except how to play the right song. Survivor know-it-alls. Yes, we're back live after episode number 5. A little bit of a blunder on my part, so I hope you enjoyed the instrumental version of the Survivor Know-It-Alls theme song. Shout out to the Fake Plastic Trees. 10 years ago, wrote the most beautiful piece of music ever recorded. Wow. Here we are, back with a man who I'm sure just seeing a slingshot on Survivor has the juices flowing here tonight. It's Stephen Fishbach. Stephen, how are you?
I'm good, Rob. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful, Stephen. Always excited to be back here with you on a Wednesday night after the episode to talk about a little bit of, this was the resolution of Daniel versus Chanel from a couple of weeks ago. Ultimately, it's Daniel who ends up going out of the game here. The last person, presumably, before we go into a very interesting 4-4-4 merge by the end of next week's episode.
Not a merge. Not. Oh, you have to. That's like you have to earn the merge.
It's the 2-part episode. Oh, no. So 2-hour Survivor maybe not 2-hour Survivor Know-It-Alls. God forbid, Stephen. 2-hour episode followed by Survivor Know-It-Alls. Look for us at 10:15 p.m. Eastern time, 1 week from tonight.
So we've been talking about how fun this season is. The advantages are sort of weaker, and then if next week is the hourglass, then we're entering the terrible timeline again.
Do you think? Okay, gut call. Are we seeing the hourglass again next week?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Is it an hourglass with a sort of like modification? Because famously,
couldn't be worse.
The Survivor 41 cast litigated this to the point where, according to conversation with Danny, that Jeff said, okay, we got to take a look at this.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that Jeff had backed down. I had assumed that Jeff was dogmatic, that this is happening again.
I think they talked it through maybe the hourglass returns, but I suspect, much like, Sweat and Savvy with the Beware advantage, I think that the hourglass could be back, but I do think it ends up looking a bit different. And I don't think you'll see a team. It will reverse the outcome of a challenge again.
You think that it's going to be? Here's one difference I'd like to see with the hourglass. It's an hourglass. You have to turn over. You don't shatter the hourglass. You turn it upside down. You don't. It doesn't make any sense to shatter the hourglass.
I'm with you 100% there in agreement.
Yeah. We need a metaphor consultant on Survivor.
Don't call Daniel because he doesn't do analogies.
He doesn't do analogies. You're the one. You really would be a good analogist, chief. I feel like I'm okay with it. I'm not bad with impressions. Maybe you can be their impression consultant, and I can be their analogist. Okay.
All right. Let's see if we can. If anybody's listening, we're open. Okay.
And you're very good with improv too. Maybe you'll. That's maybe more of as Daniel said, we make meaning out of life's unscripted.
That's what we do. That's what we're known for. Yeah. And of course, thank you for being here with us to break down episode number 5 of Survivor. Should be a fun week on the podcast. T-Bird is going to be joining me tomorrow. Of course, always fun to check in with T-Bird and see what she's thinking about all of this. And we've got a great feedback show coming up this week as Shannon Gus, who's just coming off of a whole season of Australian Survivor. She's going to join me. I'm sure we will have a very thorough look at where this game is heading into the merge coming up on the Survivor feedback show this week.
Wow, that sounds like a great lineup.
Yep. A great lineup. And then Asia Welch will join me on the Survivor Academy later on this weekend for the patrons of Rob Has a Podcast. Of course, send your questions in tonight. robhasawebsite.com/S42 questions. We'll take them later on in the show. All right, Stephen, the journey for Daniel, the Survivor, comes to an end. What did you think about this final chapter for Daniel?
I thought Daniel came off well, right? I mean, he did what he could. Lovely parting words.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had his moment in the, well, I thought the water thing, you know, like, oh, he can drift on the ocean and therefore he's not participating in swimming challenges. I mean, come on, there's a little bit of a distinction between, you know, I can like go swimming and I'm going to like be at the anchor in a swimming challenge.
Mm-hmm. I mean, did they have that many like swimming races?
Yeah. I mean, you're on which position are you taking?
So I think for Daniel, I think the optics were bad to be saying I can't contribute anything to the challenge. I have to say, I mean, it's not like that. The rest of the challenge are like all like the rest of the body tribe are all like Olympians where, you know, he's putting everybody else out there. You know, my shoulder isn't good enough for me to compete, but I'm going to go spearfishing. Now my first reaction was I thought, okay, Daniel's going to lose the spear. Okay, we've seen this before on Survivor. Like,
and Mike said, don't lose the spear.
Stephen, you couldn't pay me to pick up that Hawaiian sling on Survivor.
Yeah, it's fun. It's really fun.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. But I am not going to be the person to break the Hawaiian sling.
But you know, you got to be there for your experience too. You know, you're out surviving in the wild. You got to be there to like, you know, grow as a human. You know, how can you be the fullest Rob Cesternino if you've never hunted fish with a Hawaiian sling?
I guess so. At the point where like that, you know, there's no use for the Hawaiian sling. Nobody's touching it. Okay, maybe I'll give it a try. But I mean, for Daniel, at least, you know, he did get to have that adventure when he was out there. But I think
he's fishing. He's fishing for the tribe. They're all like hanging out on the beach.
Come on. Yeah.
And he's out there.
Did he come back with a fish?
He was trying.
Yeah. Forget I'm a potato. Do I have skin? If you are you fishing if you come back with nothing?
Yeah, a lot of fishermen, you know, come back with fish. I think the big question is, right, was Daniel the right choice? Daniel or Chanel? It comes down to between Daniel and Chanel.
Yeah.
Was that the right decision to go with Daniel?
Well, it's a great question. You know, I really, going back to last week, you know, we talked about when we were in agreement about Swathi versus Tori last week after the episode, but I really like my thinking evolved as I continued to discuss it over the week, where I felt like eventually I think I would have kept Swathi instead of Tori, just because, you know, and we saw it tonight that Tori's like, I'm definitely going to switch from these guys. I'm not sticking with them. Where that Swathi, it was like that they caught her in a lie, and it was just like, aha, okay, liar. All right, we got to get rid of her. And like they might have been a little hasty with that, and we can talk more about Ika. So the first reaction is I feel like that they did get rid of the right person, but I don't know. Can they trust Chanel?
Yeah. I think Daniel would have been loyal. I think that he probably would have stuck with that group. It really seemed like he came back with his tail between his legs. This did not seem like someone who was like, I want to jump ship at the nearest possible opportunity. This was someone who was saying, I screwed up and I want to make amends with this group. This is my group. That said, I think it was the right choice too. Like, you know, I think that Daniel, with his injury, if there are more team challenges, he's not going to help out. They need the help, right? They definitely need the help. And if they get to merge, you know, he's not going to be a huge target because he is. So, I mean, maybe he has like nerd, you know, nerd threat level.
Threat level.
Yeah.
Is that good or bad? Do you want nerd threat level?
Well, you don't want to be the nerd with threat level, but you know, like he's like a nerd shield to a certain degree. But I think that you know, but because of all of his injuries, like nobody's worried about Daniel, right? In the near future. So I think that getting rid of Daniel, he's not contributing that much to the tribe. And also like there seemed to be a lot of just like anger at him. And sometimes it just really helps the tribe come together when that person who everyone's kind of annoyed at, they get rid of. And
it totally feels like to me, he's the guy, they go to the merge with him. He outlasts all of them. Somehow it's like Daniel's in the final five. And we're like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
Where nobody like saw him as a threat and he has a bad shoulder. And it's like, okay, we got to go after Hai and Mike and Lydia. And eventually, and when the tide turns, he's jumping ship. Like, he's like, oh, you know, hey, like I'll go wherever you want me to go. with, and kudos to Daniel, that's a good way to play it. But Chanel to me feels like the more polished player, and maybe the person that you want on your side, that maybe you feel like that you can trust. But I also feel like that, Chanel is going to be interesting. I feel like that all of these tribes have somebody who is at least like contemplating jumping ship. It's almost like that, you have 3 tribes of 4, and then maybe one person from each of these tribes who is like the loose electron, who, those, people in Tori and maybe in Chanel, potentially Marianne.
I don't know. I don't buy that.
What's that?
That Marianne is thinking about jumping ship.
I'm just saying, like, if
like you're trying hard for parity between the 3.
I think that she's the person who might be the most might feel the most on the outs. It's just interesting that you could have potentially like a tribe of the 3 people who are the people who are feeling on the outs.
Yeah.
This is such an even season. Yeah. Even Stephen
season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for Chanel, it's just, she's in such an interesting spot. I really am dying to know about what you thought about Chanel voting for Mike, whether this did not seem like it was part of the plan.
It had to be part of the plan. It had to be part of the plan.
It had to be part of the plan for who?
For Hai and Lydia. My thought is Hai and Lydia said, Chanel, you vote for Mike. Like the only thing that
why would they want her to do that?
The thing that makes sense. Is if they're worried about a double shot in the dark, or maybe another
you can't
idol.
Even do a double shot in the dark.
Or they're like, well, what if one of them has a shot in the dark and the other is an idol? But here's the thing. Here's why it's a great move. If it is the plan from Hai and Lydia, which I assume it has to be, this creates tension between Mike and Chanel. So, that then Hai and Lydia are the nexus of the tribe. Hai and Lydia went from being right at the bottom of the tribe, right? They were the outsiders. Now they're the hinge. And by splitting up Chanel and Mike completely, suddenly they are the absolute center. And so I think my assumption is they said to Chanel, like, you've got to write Mike's name down in case there's like a triple cross and magic idols and who knows what's going on.
Stephen, I don't know. Well, I'll let you finish, but let me say, I think that this might be some.
No, this is like rational analysis. No, I refuse to let
I'm like a storyteller. That's what I do.
My dig against me. No, I call things fan fiction. I'm not called fan fiction. Why? What is in your? So
here's what I think happened.
In the Rob, Cesternino universe.
So I think that Chanel was worried. Okay, Daniel's going to shot in the dark, and then, okay, he's safe. All of a sudden on a revote, who are they going to get rid of? Me.
Right.
So she did a la Devin Pinto, heroes versus healers versus hustlers. Hey, let me put 1 vote on Dr. Mike. And just in case, okay, now it's 1 vote Mike, one vote Chanel. Right? Maybe she's thinking, okay, maybe that at least that she has a chance to on the tie break. Maybe they vote out
actually,
Mike.
That's actually a more compelling. That's a more compelling rationale. I defer to that. That's a better.
So I think your idea. Look, there's maybe you are correct in what you pitched first, but I think it's a bad play because Chanel has proven herself to be a little bit untrustworthy. Of your Hai and Lydia, to tell Chanel to put Mike's name down. You don't know that she's not going to say to Mike, hey, by the way, I only wrote your name down because Hai told me to. And then, Hai has this great bond with Mike now. It's like, hey, what the hell are you telling her to write my name down for? Yeah. I just wanted to create, sow dissension between you and her. So
yeah, but you trust the person. You don't trust the person who just wrote your name down. You trust the person who didn't just write your name down. The fact of writing the name down is itself the only proof you need.
Hai and Mike and Jenny were trying to get out Lydia.
Yeah. Your argument is I think superior. Like, what if it's more Chanel? If Daniel plays a shot in the dark, oh no, it's me because Daniel's going to vote for me. So then I need to put my vote on somebody else, and maybe that's Mike. I think that makes a lot more sense. I rescind my argument.
Okay. Wow, this is a first, Stephen.
Unless it's proven.
Yeah, we don't know.
Right. In which case, I stand by.
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we didn't know that High switched his vote at tribal council. So, we learn more stuff, both as like, and for all we know, like,
we did know that. I thought that was in the episode. That was clear.
It was,
I think we knew that. I think we talked about that.
It was possible. It was not canon. Sometimes that they make it look like people saw things at tribal council. We don't know for sure until we see it in the episode.
I thought that was the narrative the show was telling.
Okay, so do you want me to rescind? You want me to rescind that we learned that?
Yeah, I want to relearn. Yeah, we need to rescind for.
I will match your
rescission
about what we learned from last week's episode. But for Chanel though, what was this a good play? It is the most self-interested play she could make, but it is also the move that signals, okay, I have no faith in this. Yes. What?
No. Many to finish your sentence.
No, I was saying that she does not come across as like, if her argument was, hey, you can trust me, I'm part of the 4, let's do this. Now she has to go back and explain again. Yeah. Okay. Well, I was just like, that was totally a self-interested move that I made just in case. I didn't want to be the person who.
But like, P.S. Mike said, I kept my word. I voted for Daniel. He did not. He voted for Chanel. So Mike also wrote her name down. It's not just like Chanel writing people's names.
That's a good catch.
2 people voted for Chanel, and one of them was the guy who she voted for.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that is received when they go back to camp.
But you can't, like, if you put votes on someone, you can't be mad that like they also put votes on you.
I wonder, and we'll find out in the exit interview. I forgot to mention, of course, we'll have exit interview with Daniel. Did Daniel really strongly imply to Chanel he was going to play the shot in the dark?
I'm surprised. I mean, what's interesting to me is that he didn't play the shot in the dark. I mean, they must have really made him feel very comfortable in that moment. But even knowing, I mean, obviously it's so easy for us to say, how could you not play your shot in the dark? And I guess you want to save it, or you want to like show trust, because if you fully believe you've been,
would that have been the right call to play the shot in the dark?
Well,
I mean, I guess he got voted out,
right? Based on the results,
what assurances did he?
No, I'm saying like Hai and Lydia, like good for them and Mike, I guess, for convincing Daniel that he truly was not going home. Because is there a world where Daniel could? I mean, that's fan fiction. That's fan fiction. Like Daniel, like approaching Chanel and the 2 of them rejoining, and
Well, I think that played a factor in Mike activating his idol. We saw Mike talk about how like, hey, it'd be great if I could just get to the merge. But then, sort of like thinking it through when he had the opportunity, not so much to get the idol, because he gets the idol in what maybe by the next day, but to get his vote back. That was like, I think the key factor there heading into this scenario where potentially, okay, well, what if Daniel and Chanel reconnect? Hai and Lydia are a duo. We could potentially be going back to a 2-2 tie.
Yeah.
So I think him having his vote was actually, the biggest reason why he ends up saying the phrase.
It's so interesting. I'm so curious to hear, from your interview with Daniel, because again, he said today, like, Chanel really betrayed me. And I don't think we saw that as much, where that feeling of real betrayal came from.
I think you don't understand why Daniel feels betrayed by Chanel.
Well, it was like she like kind of left him hanging there in that moment when she didn't speak up, right? When in that moment.
Yeah, I think that he tried to imply that, she told him, she said, hey, I want you to vote out Lydia. And she basically like disavowed that. Nah, not so much. That was not really what I was going for. I didn't have a vote. Yeah. And for whatever reason, and I don't know how hard he necessarily pushed it, but it seemed like that they did not, even though like to hear both Hai and Mike and Lydia talk about it in the episode, they didn't trust either of them. They seemed to be more upset with Daniel.
And that was because he was closer to them, it seemed like, right? And because obviously he was put in that position of being,
even though they promised they weren't going to hold it against him, Stephen.
They did promise. The villains of this are Hai and Lydia, who broke their promise.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. I mean, that is interesting. I think that's the right choice. I mean, if you're Chanel, that is sort of the right choice, right? Although, in a split, I mean, I guess.
Which thing to put the vote on Mike?
Yeah, if you think the votes are going to get stacked on Daniel, you don't think that they're going to split votes. I mean, on the other hand, like, sometimes people split votes and then the person gets in trouble for not having voted for the other person if it's a true split. So.
Yeah, I mean, if she felt that there was a good chance he was going to play the shot in the dark, I mean, she has nothing to lose ultimately, because if she knows where all the other votes are going, and then it turns out that, okay, I just need to protect myself in case the contingency of Daniel plays the shot in the dark and it hits. But even still, then I think it's still likely that Hai and Lydia in that situation would then vote out Chanel.
But at least she has, at least she has
a shot
in the dark.
Not in the dark. Yeah. What did you think about the way that Chanel made her case at tribal council? I thought it was very interesting. They took very different approaches, where I felt like that Daniel and Chanel called this out, really tried to play on sort of like the emotional bonds of, hey, Mike, I know we're going to be friends. When he talks about the team, he's talking about us as people. I'm going to be friends with Mike the whole rest of his life, because I will outlive him.
Yeah, talking about someone's imminent death is always a good,
yes,
the cockles of the heart.
Yeah, but we will be lifelong friends after these 10, 11 days out here on the beach. I know we'll be lifelong friends. So this is, we have this great bond. And I thought Chanel did a good job of sort of like prosecuting see, this is what he does. But I kind of thought what Daniel was saying was going to work.
But like, nobody's changing their opinion at tribal council,
No.
Nobody's, I mean, that's the thing. It's, all of that is just performance. So it doesn't really affect anything. Not really. I mean, unless you're really stirring the pot.
Yeah.
Although it's a live tribal, it's not.
Yeah. Well, you said just the last time that they were there, we saw Hai switch his vote on the fly.
Right. I guess that's fair. I guess that is fair.
Yeah. You made me rescind that we learned it.
Wow, man. This has been a lot of rescinding, a lot of rescinding today.
Yeah. But I thought that was, a much stronger case that Chanel made. That I was a little surprised that it worked. Like, I mean, she was, bringing a lot of facts to the argument.
Yeah, the high thing was he sniffed out a deception, right? Like, this is people making their case: vote for me or don't vote for me. And I don't think the rational argument necessarily works at tribal. I think you need to do the paranoia. You need to get into someone's. You're not going to convince someone of something at tribal council. You've got to move them either through fear or your terror.
Yeah. Stephen, next week. Okay. Now I do suspect that we will see them split into groups of 6, or at least group where there are now what? Oh, are there
14? Yeah.
14. No,
12.
Yeah. 12. Yeah. 12 players left in the game. And so I think that we will probably end up drawing rocks. Potentially there will be somebody going, 2 people sitting out again, and we'll see some sort of like a group safety. I do think that will be part of what we see in the episode next week. But do you have a sense of how this 4-4-4 is going to go?
It's fun. I mean, I'm a believer.
Never had that before. This is a Survivor first.
Is it really? Huh. I'm a believer that the Jonathan, Marianne, Omar tribe is going to stick together. I don't think those flaws are that serious. I think they're going to hang up. I mean, obviously we know Tori is going to flip. Right?
To where though?
That's a good question. Who's like the most simpatico with Tori?
So I don't know exactly. I mean, Tori has not had any interaction with anybody else. It was interesting that they sent. Did they get to choose who got to go? Yes, right. Because Ika came in first place, so they got to choose who from their tribe. It was interesting that they sent Roxroy and not Tori, who would be the person who would be most likely to flip. I'm going to just make sure that I have that correct. But so. Interesting to not send Tori. I think that's a really smart and savvy move not to send Tori to go to Shipwheel Island.
Well, that's why I'm surprised that you went back on your opinion about Swathi versus Tori. And, you can't let these Thursday morning quarterbacks get in your head. This is where, the important decisions are made. You can't let these Johnny come latelys change your opinion. The argument, we always acknowledged that Tori was a flipper, right? Even that was the baseline. And the reason that we thought Swathi was the better choice was because she was more dangerous, because you didn't see the flip coming. With Tori, you see the flip coming. And it's like, it's the Rumsfeld. You got the known knowns, You know, the known unknowns and unknown unknowns. And Swathi was the unknown unknown. You know, you
wasn't she a known after you found her out about her?
Well, but then she's no different than Tori at that point. I mean, I think the fear with Swathi was always that this is someone who is going to create chaos, going to make moves that we don't see. With Tori, we're going to see the move. And to me, like, that is scary. Like, the person you don't see is scarier rather than the person you see. Like, they know Tori's going to flip. You know, they're so like, okay, like, she's not -1, you know, but the scarier thing is the ally who is working against you.
But I don't know if Swathi was going to, once they get to the merge, was she really going to go anywhere? Like, yeah, she was freelancing here in the Eco tribe, but like, she had nothing going on with anybody. As opposed to Tori, who seems like she is going to be aggressively seeking out something else.
But Swathi was the one who was driving all those like flips and counter flips. Like, it wasn't Tori. Like, you know, Drea approaches Tori, you know, and Tori's like, yeah, great, this is our new thing. And Swathi's like, no, that's our new thing. No, that's our new thing. You know, I mean, like, if anything, like, Swathi seemed like she was like spinning much faster than Tori was. You know, Tori was like, okay, here's my group. Okay, no, I'm going to flip on that group. Swathi was like, let me pull this thread and that thread, this thread. Like, that's much scarier to me. So, you know, whoever talked you out of the correct know-it-all sanctioned opinion, you should be ashamed of yourself.
All right. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, like, because I really think that my first read on it is that I think that Taku, I agree. I think that they're probably going to be most likely to be sticking together. Marianne, we did get that scene tonight, might be the most loose of the people to potentially go somewhere else, but probably is staying. Can they pull Tori in? Because I kind of feel like that you know, Drea and Hai both have the advantage amulet. I wonder if that's sort of like some connective tissue there where they're saying like, okay, forget Lindsay. She's part of this big, she's part of this tight group. We're not going to get to her. Why don't we vote for her? At least change our thing from a vote steal to from a extra vote to a vote steal. Yeah. And maybe that's sort of like the beginning of something. Roxroy and Lydia met up tonight. That didn't go great. But you know, maybe that there's at least like some friendliness there to potentially, get something going. But I kind of feel like that we're going to see where it is going to be Vati, I think, and Ika potentially getting together to come for Taku.
I am not at the point in the season yet where I can identify the tribes by their names. So,
forget them. I mean, they're about to,
seriously, yeah. So what though?
Blue and green.
Yeah, thank you.
I think are going to come together against orange because it was such a big part of the pre-merge about how their strength, this tribe sticks together, Jonathan's prowess.
Yeah, no, I that makes a lot of sense to me. And especially with Jonathan being sort of like the universal target, it makes a lot of sense that the others would. I mean, so what are the intertribal connections now? So we obviously have that amulet trio of Drea, Lindsay, and Hai. And then what else is there? So you mentioned Lydia and Roxroy, and again, that, like you said, that didn't go anywhere.
Went nowhere.
Fun scene.
But this whole season is completely different. If it ends up where if Chanel went to go to Shipwheel Island with Roxroy, forget it. Completely different season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. We first time ever we get our protect also at Shipwheel Island.
Which was interesting. I mean, certainly made sense for Lydia. Like, really nice to see someone make the intelligent choice there.
Yeah,
and that made less sense for Roxroy, but
less sense for Roxroy.
Yeah, but he's thinking like maybe she's gonna make a risky move. She's in danger. Like,
don't forget also Omer does not have his vote, although he did hit it off with Chanel when they went to Shipwheel Island. He's gonna be in for a rude awakening. He doesn't have his vote. Chanel knows this information. Right. Also could say, okay, well, hey, this is the night to strike at Taku. They are down at least
down a vote. That's very interesting. That's a great point. That's a very interesting point. Yeah.
So, okay, we'll see. There'll be plenty to talk about. Of course, that if it is that same situation as we had in the Survivor 41 first vote at the official merge tribal council, it was only 6 people were eligible to be voted for. I would expect that to be the same case. Like, I think that maybe that there will be some different mechanisms around the hourglass, but I do think it will be 6 people are safe, 6 people are not.
Do you like that?
I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it really narrows things down in terms of these merge votes that end up sometimes being in a lot of the newer seasons of Survivor.
So hard to
really throughout the entire 30s.
Totally.
It's like 9-4, 10-3 votes, and 11-2. So I do think
it's hard to follow. It's also really hard to play with those numbers, and like they're constantly shifting. It's like there's no real strategy. It becomes like somewhat random. So like narrowing it down does sort of like focus the strategy quite a bit. What did you, so we talked about, I guess, Lydia and Roxroy a little bit, like Lydia making them sensible. I really liked, I thought this was fun. The fact that they were both a little bit cagey, they protected their tribes. Like, thank you. That's how you should play that moment. You shouldn't just be like, bleeding out to like someone just because you've like, they're the first new face you've seen in 10
But
days.
it was the wrong read for Roxroy in that, where you can see why for Omer 2 weeks ago that he had the right read of like, oh, this person is going into a tribal council tonight. They're going to need their vote. But I guess Roxroy's read was like, hey, sounds like Lydia's in dire straits. Sounds like she's going to go for, try to shoot the moon here.
But I mean, it's not crazy to think if someone's like, it's going to be me, that they wouldn't necessarily, that they might go for like, take a big risk if they really felt like they were the target. I mean, that's,
But we saw the play, and I wonder maybe if in season 42 that we saw the players in season 41 game the system so much. I wonder if they told them, and again, this is totally rampant speculation. When you go to Shipwheel Island, the first rule of Shipwheel Island, you're not allowed to talk about Shipwheel Island. You're not allowed to talk about like the exact mechanism.
You're not allowed.
I don't know. Because in season 41, we saw like, okay, well, I need my vote, so you don't risk your vote, and I'll risk my vote. You'll get the extra vote. Maybe the producer said that they didn't like that.
Yeah.
Because it's so weird that Lydia said, yeah, I knew it was exactly like what Jenny said.
Right. It's weird that they didn't game it out. You're absolutely right. That is very weird. It's such a strange thing though. Like this, like that's like there's a little bit of that, right? Like, oh, the truth, like knowledge is power. You have to tell them what you have. Oh, you're not allowed to talk about this thing. Like that feels very like counter to the tenets of Survivor. But it does. I think that's a really good read, Rob, because you're right. Like there's been something strange about everyone knows, but nobody's figuring it out in the way that they did last season. So I think you're probably right. Like they're not.
It's interesting. I don't know. I think
you're exactly right. No, because otherwise that makes sense of a lot of people's different strange choices.
Yeah, I mean, it has helped make it more interesting television this season than it was in season 41. But we'll find out the answer to that one of these days. Stephen, let's talk about Potato-gate. Okay, it was a big thing this season. People were up in arms. People were up in arms about that in the season 41 preview, or the preview for season 42 in the season 41 finale, and then again in this season, we saw Tori looking down at a clue, and we heard the disembodied voice of a woman reading the clue about the potato, and we all assumed, everybody who went back and looked at it, like, okay, well, Tori is going to find the Beware advantage. The third Beware advantage will be found by Tori. Many viewers felt like, okay, well, I know Tori's not going home on the Zach vote. I know Tori's not going home on the Swathi vote because we didn't find her reading the third idol clue yet. However, this past week really started to come to light that there were some, there was a YouTuber in particular, OMG, who went back and listened to and found out that hey, hold on, are we sure this is Tori's voice? And sure enough, Stephen,
not Tori.
It was the old bait and switch.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen actually a lot of people, or some people were saying, you can't trust the previews. They change people's buff color. They put people in different positions. Like, they take things from, but it really was quite a lot of outrage for something that turned out to be pretty irrelevant.
Yeah. So this was the case of that. I think that the Survivor producers are like, okay, well, let's actually get ahead of this. Let's not this is our funniest phrase, but let's not show the person who does find it. But the problem was the people that were over analyzing the footage said, aha, Tori is going to, they screwed up. Tori's going to find it. But I think that when they tried to hide it, they weren't thinking about who's going to be the decoy boot at the other votes.
Right.
Like had they had Roxroy reading the parchment, then you wouldn't have been figured. But I think they didn't. They said, okay, we're going to trick you, but the people tricked themselves.
Yeah. I mean, what's the lesson? What's the takeaway here? What's the Survivor Academy bullet point?
I mean, first off, let's not go, cuckoo bananas about what they show us in the preview for the season. They could be messing with you. Mm-hmm. And, for the people who are making these previews,
no cuckoo bananas.
Yeah, think about like if you are trying to, because a big part of the show is deceiving the audience anyway. Just think about like, hey, are you trying to deceive later on in the season that this person is a boot target? Well, now just keep track of your lies, Stephen. It's a big Survivor secret.
No cuckoo bananas and keep track of your lies. Those are the two lessons.
By the way, Stephen, did you like that secret phrase? Potatoes have skin. I have skin. Am I a potato?
I thought, well, first of all, she did it great, right? She really made it very fun.
No, because she said that she had a potato. How did she have a potato?
She said they found a potato. There's wild potatoes.
There's wild potatoes in Fiji?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I've never seen anybody ever find a potato on Survivor.
Does anyone know that they didn't find a potato? Like no one on the other tribes is like, oh yeah, you didn't find a potato. Plus, like, no one's really even
in their head. They were, yeah.
I mean, Mike's was much weirder. I have these kids who say
I think
to
they
me
saved
about
Mike
soccer.
in the end. I think they yada yada Mike's story a lot. I think they cut out a big chunk of it.
That was the most tenuous. But I remember that a lot of the time people were just like talking to, after the challenge or before the challenge, people are just like saying things. And you're like, oh God, I want to say my thing. Like, I don't want to hear all these other people saying their things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see. We do have a poll up on our RHAP Graham's Instagram account. If you want to check it out and vote in the poll to determine, are you a potato if you have skin? Yes or no?
It's an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I don't like the thing about Mike not having to say the phrase, because he was, I mean, to be fair, like he did say the phrase, but like there's a lot of reasons why someone who was not in a really dire situation, might not say the phrase. And I fully expected him not to say the phrase. And how crappy is that? Like the whole point of these like funny phrases is that you have to say them. Everyone knows, now who's got the idols. If Mike can just like not say it, like the correct move, unless you really need your vote, which to be fair, Mike did need his vote, is to not say it. Like, like to have a big game mechanic that's based on people acting in a subpar strategic way seems like a not great mechanic.
Well, I think they sort of stumbled into like what the right mechanic should be if they ever do this in a future season. And now that future players will know about this, I'm not sure if that's it. But I think it should be, you don't have to say it, but the idol goes away at the merge. If it's not
that's what
said,
it was last season, right?
That's what it was last season. But I think there was some question of if you had to say it. But I think you should have the option to say it, because I think it really brought a lot of things into being like intriguing situations about this. Daniel thought about, hey, we should vote out Mike, because then we can stop the idols from being into the game. So I think if they ever do anything like this again, with a beware advantage, secret phrases or not, or if everybody has to wear a coconut on their head at a challenge or whatever the silly thing is going to be. I think that you can do it or not do it, but your opportunity at the idol passes if the three people don't do the thing.
Yeah.
Or two people.
I like that more, because then there's actual incentive to use it. Whereas now again, like it made sense for Mike tonight to activate, but you're so highly incentivized to not announce to all three tribes that you now have an immunity idol.
Anything else of note to you in this episode tonight, Stephen?
I don't think so. You?
Nothing that's jumping out at me. So why don't we take a look at the questions that we have from our listeners. Okay. You want to see the poll results? Okay. Potatoes have skin. I have skin. Am I a potato? What do you think, Stephen?
I think no.
Okay. Let's see. What do people say? The results of the poll over at RHAP Grams on Instagram.
Oh, looks like I was wrong. Yes.
76% of people
we
said
are potatoes.
yes.
We are all potatoes. Interesting.
We are potatoes.
Rob, we didn't talk about the Jonathan Marianne fight.
Sure. Much Ado About Nothing, or you think there was something there?
Actually, last week I was very much, this is Much Ado About Nothing, but it did seem like there was a little bit of brewing animosity here.
There did seem like there was some brewing animosity both directions.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Omer also said that, look, Marianne is annoying. I just wonder if there is a possibility where if Marianne is feeling a little bit that, hey, I'm not really appreciated around here by my group. She correctly got that. Okay. Jonathan went off with Lindsay to go complain about her. Marianne, she went to Shipwheel Island with Drea. She also we didn't talk about this. We saw in season 41 the players that had the idols also, like the Advantage amulet, but got together, or hey, we saw Nasir said to Xander, hey, I gotta look at your watch your back.
Not a lot happened there though.
Not a lot happened there, but it is that Marianne, she said the phrase, she already went with Drea to go to Shipwheel Island. Could potentially Marianne go connect with Drea?
Yeah. And interestingly, I thought that scene with Romeo was very interesting.
The scene where he helped Drea find the item.
Where he's saying, I'm helping. I want to be like the pageant coach for Drea,
Yeah.
It's a good, I'm not done speculating about winners edits. That was broken last season. I refuse, there's no more speculation there, but Drea's got a big story right now. She's got a lot of connections.
She's Survivor Rich. She had the episode title. She has the most things. She has an idol. She has an extra vote, and she has the Advantage amulet.
Yeah. And she's got a lot of connections. She's in a great spot. And I also think she's helped by Jonathan's existence, because Drea is probably one of the most fit people out there. But the fact that there's a Jonathan, just takes some of that heat away.
Yeah. Very, very good points. Drea is very well situated here at the merge. Okay. Not merge, whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Stephen, question from Kevin Mack. Is there anyone from your seasons that you will be friends with until the very end? And if so, who do you think will go first between you and that person? Oh my God. This is really a question for Stephen, because Stephen has many lifelong friendships with people that he played with.
I hope they all go first, obviously. JT will probably go, but he's younger than me, but I think he's going to go first. He lives a rougher lifestyle.
He lives hard. Yeah.
Tyson, it's a tweener. I think I'll probably go first. I think he's in good health.
Tyson, very healthy living from Tyson.
Out there playing pickleball all the time. The pickleball, it's got to do a number on you. He's gonna be, he could be one of those athletes who, when he's 70,
get bad knees. Yeah. And
I hope not. But I just hope it happens before I go. Jeremy,
that'd be too sad to talk about Jeremy.
Yeah, I still think he's gonna go first.
It's a more dangerous profession than you.
Yeah, that's right. No one ever got lit on fire writing. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. Tyson will probably outlast me.
Yeah. So for me, I feel very bad. I feel like that I really don't have any, great friendships. I've stayed friends with Jenna over the years, but I feel like that I've even lost touch with her. So
I think you'll probably outlast her.
Yeah, it's not a fun thing to speculate about.
I just did it for people I actually care
about. Yeah. I feel like that all the people that I've become very close with from Survivor are people not from the seasons that I played with.
Yeah. What about us? Who's gonna live longer, Rob?
Oh, I have way more, podcast stress. I'm sitting much more of the day,
I think you're going to live longer. You're in great health. You have really.
How about this? Whoever lives the longest is the knowingest know-it-all.
Oh, no, that's not. You're not going to win it back just by outlasting me. Oh, no.
Come on.
This is outwits, not outlast.
Okay. Stephen, what does the RHAP out of context account has to say?
All right, RHAP out of context. If you are in Drea's shoes and somebody asks you how you got a potato, what is the lie you come up with?
Yeah, these survivors, all they think about is food. They're going to say, wait, you got potatoes?
We found a root. We were in the forest. It was like
and they
root.
got the tarp. So I think that there's a good chance Ika tribe becomes the merge beach.
Oh, everyone's going to be looking for potatoes.
Yeah, they're going to say, Drea, show us where you got the potato. We're dying to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just found it on the floor.
Yeah. Exactly. That's tough one. That's tough.
Yeah. But I'm sure it was like a slip of the tongue, but I'm sure she could have just said like, hey, we're thinking about food all the time. And I'm just thinking about potatoes so much. And I'm thinking, you don't need to actually say you had a potato.
Yeah.
Well, not to nitpick the
thing is, here's the thing. The whole phrases thing was so fun last season. The Xander butterflies and then that Nasir, genius
big
moment.
Pop. Yeah.
It was just so good that now it's like, I feel like, someone's telling me the same joke that I really used to thought that when I heard it the first time, I thought it was hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, that's a great joke. I love that joke.
That is so funny. Yeah.
But it's like, it's still a funny joke, but like, I'm not laughing.
Right. Okay. Annalise says, how come both Marianne and Drea's beware message said they must say the phrase of the next challenge, but Mike could wait? Did Mike read his advantage?
You're going to have to ask David Bloomberg.
No one corrected him on it. Yeah, this is a good question. We don't know the answer to this.
I'm very much of this is. Oh, did you when you talked to Xander, did this come up?
Xander said that he had to say it when he was on season 41. I think that they probably asked a producer on Vati Beach who did not have the same answer as, producers on the other beaches might have had.
So you're saying the different contestants might have gotten different.
I think different contestants got different answers. Yeah.
Well, see, but that's where it goes wrong, because if everyone's getting the same answer, even if it's regardless of the grammar, who cares? But if people are getting different answers, then that's actually unfair.
It's not right. That's my best guess of what happened. I don't think that Survivor production was like, hey, let's let Mike do one thing and then let's consciously said, okay, let's let somebody else do the other thing.
There's not that many rules in the game. Just get on the same page about the rules.
That would be ideal. Yeah. Okay. See, what does GJ from Amsterdam say?
GJ wants to know, do you think that Lydia made the right move here by asking Roxroy about how tight they are?
So it was an interesting question. So who are you tight with? I mean, I don't think that's a bad question to ask, but I like Roxroy's answer. Like, tight? Who's tight?
What even is that?
What is Survivor? Tight? Yeah.
Roxroy's a very fun character.
I love Roxroy.
Yeah.
He's going to be interesting to watch at the merge.
Yeah.
Because he's gonna he's the last person that's gonna be flipping.
And hey, Roxroy did a really good job after Tribal Council, of saying, you guys were right. Thank you for not telling me. That's also best. Thank you. I was so appreciative of being lied to by you all. And I'm glad I didn't have to, vote against my conscience, and totally get it. He did a really good job.
Yeah. I do wonder, if Tori is going to flip, I wonder, could Tori be the merge boot? If Tori is going to flip, you think so?
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's Tori Roxroy antagonism, right?
I always feel like that,
how much she's mad at Roxroy.
Well, I mean, could if it's could that be an acceptable loss for Ika potentially?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why you would vote out Roxroy. I mean, if this is a guy who's not great, who's not particularly strategic, doesn't have a great social game, really
not dominating in the challenges.
Yeah. That's a real waste of a vote.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What does Kay have to say?
Kay wants to know, could Daniel have used his injury to his advantage, make himself look like less of a threat? Well, I don't think anyone was worried about Daniel as a physical threat.
Yeah, it's sort of the opposite where, Tyson, people worried about him as a physical threat. He lost Survivor Tocantins because people were too worried about him. Sorry, Marianne, for spoiling, but they people worried about Tyson. Okay, we're like, Tyson will win the challenges. So when Tyson gets hurt, it's like, all right, we're not so worried about Tyson. If anything,
Daniel would need like a tongue injury, right?
Or like tongue injury or like a concussion or something like that.
Yeah, traumatic brain injury. That would be the way to go. If you're Daniel in that situation, come out of the water like, my head, I can't think straight.
Yeah. So
what even happened in the last tribal council? I don't remember. Fresh start.
Yeah. Here's a question from Amanda. Given that Omer struggled in that challenge, then Jonathan helped Taku with coming back and winning. How far do you think that Jonathan will actually make it into the merge? Now, I tweeted about this. I don't know if you saw my tweet.
I didn't.
So that, the edit did make it look like, okay, so Omer can't undo the puzzle. And then Jonathan comes in, boom. I did a screen grab. There's a lot of orange beanbags around. That it was not just 2 attempts for kudos. Now, Stephen, you know how hard it is to shoot the slingshot. Okay. Kudos to Jonathan. Yeah. I'd still be out there. He got it done. He won the jump, but the story of Jonathan, the hot knife through butter in the challenges might be a little bit embellished in this case.
I took, when in doubt, right. Tell the story, right. And stories are the truth, right.
Well, and the story we have gotten, and
famous phrase, when in doubt,
when in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll work on that.
But the story we've gotten all through the pre-merge is that Jonathan is unstoppable. I do wonder if potentially he is looked at as the big target next week.
Yeah, it does seem like he's certainly going to be. I mean, you have to be worried about Jonathan
if he's available to be taken out. Like if the Survivor,
he almost definitely will be, because whatever group is with Jonathan is going to win the immunity challenge.
But I don't think they're going to do that again. I was going to argue the opposite of that. I don't think that they'll have the break the hourglass twist to reverse to reverse the result of the challenge.
So what does the hourglass do then?
What could the hourglass do? Make you safe? I don't know. Undo the merge?
Undo the merge.
Did you undo the merge? I don't know.
Maybe that people who ate the feast have to regurgitate it into your mouth.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I wonder if it'd be a different mechanism than the hourglass. Yeah. Because it was so unpopular with the Survivor 41 contestants. Okay. Stephen, what does Sam have to say?
Sam says, have you ever voted and immediately regretted it? Like knew before the votes were read? Yeah.
Let's see. I voted for Stephen to go play in Cambodia.
Well, I regretted it. I regret that vote of yours.
You regretted it. Yeah. I voted. Not that it would have made a difference, but I wish I would have played my shot in the dark in Survivor All-Stars. Could you imagine, Stephen, in the multiverse, if I became the first person to hit the shot in the dark?
Wow. Maybe that's what the amulet does. The hourglass. We go back
I get to do the
Survivor All-Stars. You've got a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Strange Ways starts playing.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Did you, you probably had a couple of votes.
There was one where, the one that I went home on in Cambodia, I was like, oh, that was not, I should have.
Was it an instant regret or?
No, it was like, I was a tweener, and then it was pretty much like, oh no. Yeah. It was a tweener.
Yeah. Okay.
Certainly after I was voted out, I regretted it.
Yeah. Right. Of course. Obviously.
Yeah. Tubby Lunchbox wants to know, was Mike really in enough danger that he needed to say his idol phrase? It seemed like he was pretty solidly with Hi, I'm Lydia. Now everyone in the game knows about his idol.
Yeah, it was sort of a risk reward. I do think that it was not that he was so much in danger, but I think that he felt like, okay, well, I don't want to risk potentially going to Rox again here at this tribal council.
Yeah. If Mike doesn't have a vote there is a world where Daniel and Chanel get back on the same page and say,
because they're both super self-interested players.
Right.
I think that's what we saw. That's maybe like one of the things that really united them.
Right. And then
we saw them even to like, hey, if we get through this vote, I'll still work with you at the merch.
Right. So I think that would not have been, I mean, I not have been a crazy thing to happen.
Yeah. And also, if it like gets out that like they got to the merge, and like I think like these secrets we've seen, like everybody tells everybody everything. Like is word gonna get out that Mike has the idol anyway? Probably. And if you're Chanel, I'm sorry, if you are Marianne or Drea, I think that there is a good chance that you say like, wait, he had the thing and he didn't say it. He couldn't hook us up.
Yeah.
Screw Mike.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, Mike, we did it. There's three of us. So I think it does open up some connections. So I don't think it's going to be the end of the world for Mike.
Yeah.
All right, Stephen, anything else tonight?
Very fun episode. Actually it was not it was a good episode. It was a Survivor. It was a good episode.
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
I mean, I guess like fishy for high again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For
Romeo?
high,
Mike, Lydia.
I mean, you tell me.
You tell me.
If I was gonna award the fishy for tonight, I mean, what would you give it to? I guess Chanel for,
I don't know, for like not being voted out, but she wasn't really in a position of power.
Lydia for not throwing her vote away.
Yeah, I guess Lydia, because Lydia was part of the power do. High. I think I already gave one to High. Let's say Lydia.
Mm-hmm.
Lydia for the fish. I like that. That's a good.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about what's coming up this week on the podcast. So be sure to check out Thursday night. I will be starting Thursday morning. I will talk with Daniel Strunk and hear about everything that went on back at that tribal council a couple of weeks ago and everything since that point. Then T-Bird Cooper, our great friend from Talking with T-Bird, will join us on the episode recap. Shannon Gus will join me for the Survivor Feedback Show. Asia Welch will join me on the patron-only Survivor Academy, where we will take a look at the lessons learned this week for future Survivor players. And I'll have some bonus content with YouTuber Sierra Schultze coming up this week, which should be very fun. She's a big Survivor fan. Looking forward to chatting with her. And then over on the Survivor podcast feed, check out everything else that we have going on when you go to robinswebsite.com/Survivor feed. We've got the Peridium is going to be on the B&B. Why Blank Lost. We have Kemi from Big Brother 21 on the Stock Watch. Survivor Global is going to be with me this week. And then, of course, Bryce and Wendell have the Survivor News edition of the Purple Pants podcast. That's all in our Survivor podcast feed, wherever fine podcasts are heard. Stephen, still no word from your lifelong friend, Tyson. Maybe you've been hearing from him because he's been ghosting Danny and I over on News AF. The first lady of podcasting stepped in this week. Nicole Cesternino joined us on a very special edition of News AF.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Was it challenging to not have him there?
Always.
It's challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Challenging.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Stephen. Then
it was tough.
Yeah. Over
tough
on Robin and Kiva. Tough as nails. Yes. Over on Robin and Kiva Need a Podcast this week, we played a very fun game called Who's My Honey, put together by Karen from Canada and Corey B. We met 7 people. 3 of them are in relationships. 1 of them is a grenade. And it was up to Akiva and myself to ask questions and find out.
Really fun. It sounds really fun.
Who are the honeys?
Well, how'd you do?
I don't want to spoil the podcast, but check it out over on Robin and Akiva Need a Podcast. Very fun game.
Yeah.
Who's My Honey? First time ever. Of course, over on our Patreon, robinswebsite.com/patron. Of course, we make it very easy for you to watch the international reality shows. Plus, we have the Patron 5 for 5 and the Survivor Academy in our Patron podcast feed. Check that all out and much more at robhasawebsite.com/patron. And Stephen, we haven't announced this yet here on the main podcast.
Wow.
4 weeks from tonight, we will be back, or I should say that the Royal We will be back in New York City for the first Robin's Podcast live show in 2 years. That is going to be coming up on May 4th, 2022. The bad news is that the Robin's Podcast patrons sold out this show in about 90 minutes. So that is, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people want to be there with us on the night of May 4th. Unfortunately, that is a sold out show. The Rob's Podcast patrons got there first, had to, and I always do, let the patrons know. They have stuck with me
as it should be
for many years, and all through the pandemic with no live shows, and so they were very eager to get to it. So just a programming note: in 4 weeks, Stephen Fishback will be here with you live for Survivor Know-It-Alls. I will have the RHAP live show coming Thursday. We will drop that in the podcast feed. That's coming up on May 4th. However, I do have one piece of information to also pass along. If you are interested in being with us on Tuesday night, Bryce and Wendell are going to be hosting the pre-party Tuesday night. Bryce and Wen present on Tuesday night, May 3rd. We do have tickets available for that. We have procured a certain number of tickets from Bryce and Wendell, and for patrons of Rob's Podcast, you are available to get the patron discount for those tickets for Tuesday night if you are in the New York City area and want to come out and see us on May 3rd, 2022, the night before the Wednesday night live edition of Survivor. Okay? All right. This is robswebsite.com/patron. That link is up there right now. And Stephen, it's going to be a great show, I'm sure.
Wow, how insulting! How insulting!
What's insulting?
Oh, no,
I'm talking about your show when
I don't want
Stephen will have a live show.
Yeah, finally free from the shackles of having to podcast with Rob. I will have a live Know-It-Alls. I'll be so sad. It's not. I'm really bummed that I will not be there at the live show.
One day.
Yeah,
we'll work it out again. And
you imagine and the CDC will figure.
Imagine how big that show will be when we're back together in person. Okay.
I hope it happens. I'm optimistic that someday it will happen.
I'm optimistic it'll happen someday too. Okay. Yeah. All right. And be sure to follow us on social media, robswebsite.com/subscribe for the podcast feeds. Listen to Rob as a Podcast wherever fine podcasts are found. And of course, we appreciate your feedback and your star ratings always for Rob Has a Podcast. Stephen, what's coming up for you?
No, we're getting our house painted. We're getting our house, did some work done on our house. It's very exciting. We've been living in this house here that hasn't been painted to our specifications, and now it will be.
My wife has been painting a lot.
My house. She's been here. It's been real wonderful.
Yes. She's like that. She's not waiting for me to do any of these things. She's just taking.
So she's out there with the easel.
She's not painting the exterior of our house.
Interior. She's doing like
the interior. She's like, I gotta paint this wall. I'm like, are you sure? Do you need to?
That's a wonderful can-do attitude. I love that. Well, why not? Like, if she wants to paint the wall, what's the problem?
Doesn't always put the stuff away. She starts a lot of projects, and then there's like the stuff is around.
Like the paint is spattered all over the place.
Didn't you paint like 2 weeks ago? Why is all the stuff still around?
The painting stuff.
Yeah. She's great. She's incredible at starting projects, Stephen.
Hey, that's half the battle, right? You got to start them, and then I don't even know what happens after that.
Yeah, that's not important.
Profit.
Okay, Stephen. Anything else?
It's wonderful chatting with you. So fun.
Always look forward to it every week. Thank you so much for joining.
An average episode of Survivor. It's a fun hour, and with you.
I get to hang out with my lifelong friend. 10 years of the Survivor Know-It-Alls coming up this fall,
and lifelong. Until one of us croaks. Hopefully,
and becomes
longest lived, maybe like the longest. I don't know what knowing is.
We'll see.
Lastingest know-it-all.
The lastingest know-it-all. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.